Gavin McAnally, how you doing?
I am doing wonderful, mate. How about yourself?
Lovely. Is that a pint of rum you've got there?
It's a glass of wine. You know what? I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating how well this wee podcast of ours is doing. So I thought, you know what? Get Big James on. He's got his lined up for a Q&A. He's got his dream come true. He's finally getting his Q&A that he wanted. A full episode answering questions. I'm going to pour myself a wee glass of wine for this one. How are you?
Cheers. I'm good, mate. I'm very, very good. Very still pumped for podcast land. It's the feedback continues and it's nice. So
It's
yeah,
only
we're
been, so is this 3 weeks? Is this the third week now we're getting
yeah,
into?
yeah, maybe. It feels like more. I don't know. Who
Yeah,
knows?
it does feel like. I mean, if the novelty had already worn off by week three, that'd be a bad sign considering we've kind of signed ourselves up for the first year. But definitely it's growing in popularity. More people are getting involved, and we appreciate all the feedback. The subscribers on YouTube are going up, despite the fact that that's still the ugly cousin to the listeners on Spotify. But the listeners on Spotify and Apple and Google, they're also going up per episode as well. So yes, we're at the point now. Forget to like and subscribe. Go and tell a pal. Go and tell all your
Yeah.
pals, and let's get this up there with Stephen Bartlett and Joe Rogan.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do it. And I feel like the reason I wanted to do a Q&A is because I think this type of podcast only works if people are like engaged in the subject matter, and like we've got a long list of stuff we're going to talk to people about over the next year, but there's some things that we would never think people cared about, and it's just like cool to get some questions and like answer them and just be like, yeah, be honest and open and
Yeah,
see what people think.
and you would, because a lot of these things you would just you'd never start a podcast or think about doing a podcast that would answer some of these questions, because why would you? And a lot, let's be fair, if this wasn't a podcast, this is just conversations that we have between ourselves
Yeah.
and in VIP areas of your festival with White Russians, you know what I mean? So this is really just us repeating a lot of the same shite we talk to each other,
It
but
really is.
allowing everyone else to hear. And it turns out a lot of agents too, because we're getting a bit of a battering back from them. So next time, maybe not next episode, but there will be an episode where agents will have their platform. We will
Yeah.
have an agent, hopefully Mr. Tom Taff, who is responsible for the booking of a lot of bands at Damnation and 2000 Trees and Art Tangent. Hopefully he'll be able to come on and give us and like fair play. As I said in the last episode, this is the reason that you're getting the promoter side of it, because that is the only side we've got. We've got no context for the agent. We are not agents, so we can only tell you how it is from our point of view. So the floor will be all theirs.
Absolutely. It is quite funny how many agents are getting in contact though, isn't it? So that there are at least 4 or 5 that are listening to every week. I forgot to tell you, I'm going to apologize to Tyler, because I said to you about Ahab a couple of weeks ago that he offered them to me. Well, he texted me today. He'd obviously just listened to it, and he's like, "You fucker, you asked me about Ahab. I did." He's like, "You've really chucked me under the bus there." So yeah, apologies.
I'd like it on the record too that for all the business dealings with agents, it's like a lot of these guys are cracking guys. I mean,
Yeah.
you would sit down and have a drink with these men and women at any festival and enjoy their company, and have done many, many times. But when it gets to the nitty gritty, when it gets to the pounds and pence, that's when things can get a bit spiky. That's their job. And our job is to make sure that our pockets aren't dipped. So it's all done. It's all done with honesty, but at the same time, it's all done with a little spoonful of humour as well, you know?
Yeah, and I think hopefully people can tell that there's something like we are laughing at ourselves in this, and it's quite cathartic talking about it. It feels good to get it out. And there's some other festivals got in contact with me that to say, it's really nice to hear that other people are dealing with the same bollocks we are. So yeah.
Yeah. I got a message today. I don't want to say the festival because I don't know if it was like strictly private, if he would allow me to say it public. But he basically said, I listened to your how to book a band or the dark arts of band booking, and half an hour afterwards somebody screwed me over my exclusivity for the he said the timing could not have been more perfect. I was just like, you bastards, you absolute bastards.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna do an agent episode, aren't we? The
Yeah,
agent strikes back.
the agent strikes back is what it's going to be called, and no doubt Bry will come up with some some Star Wars reference with an agent's face and some whatever you call those big mechanical things, because I'm not a virgin and don't know. So, right. So Q&A, James, hit me up.
Okay.
The floor is yours, pal.
Okay, amazing. Well, I'm going to go. First questions from James Clay. Hi, James. We know each other very well. James has helped us set up 2000 Trees and Arctangent for many years. And he says, how often do agents try tacking on a band you don't want to book, trying to force you into a two for one that doesn't work for your festival? And do you take the other band?
Starting from the end of that question, absolutely not. We don't take the other band, and not just because they are shit, because there's not a lot of slots at Damnation. So they really need to be, you need to be wanted and loved to be in Damnation. There'll be a package that will get announced at some point down the line, which it'll become apparent that a band could have played Damnation and were offered to Damnation. I'm going to say forcefully, but heavily persuaded you could take this band as well. They do sell tickets, and we held our ground and didn't book them. Some things just don't fit. I mean, I made the joke on like the last podcast, the one before, that even if Saxon were free, we wouldn't book them, and that's no really so much a slight Saxon. They don't suit Damnation, and the bands need to work, and sometimes it works perfectly. Sometimes we booked a package once for, was it the cancelled 2020 festival? The package was Wolves in the Throne Room, Blood Incantation, and Bellwitch. I mean, that's a dream. When that package lands, you thank your lucky stars that whatever clever agent put it together, and you grab it with both hands, because ultimately what happens there is you get bands that might be worth £2,000, £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 that you might be getting for 1,000 or 1,500, because it's all been packaged up that way. So there's a lot of occasions where the packages are excellent, but no, Damnation doesn't take bands that it doesn't want.
Whereas for us, we've got a much larger number of bands to book. So I am much more open to doing favors for agents in a kind of you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back way. And in reality, those I deal with rock agents, and so they have suitable bands. So it's not often you're being offered a band that is totally unsuitable. Now, if I was booking, like, 2000 Trees, there's like 150 bands. So yes, if you're going to give me a headliner, I am probably going to squeeze in your band. So this year at both of the festivals, I have had one of the headliners agents has strong-armed me into booking someone else. And I refused at Arctangent, and we had a lot of conversation about it, because I was just like, it just doesn't fit. You're not helping anyone here. But at 2000 Trees, I was like, yeah, it totally fits. It's a good booking. Let's do it. So I think it's not regularly that they attach two bands to each other and they're like, if you want this band, you have to book this one. But often it's implied that if you're going to work with me and you're going to get all my fucking great bands, I want to put these small bands on your lineup as well. And that is a thing that I accept as part of the game.
I honestly was coming at this one like, we're not agent bashing this one. We are not agent bashing, and then you hear stuff like that, you're like, fucking hell. I mean, what does that band have to do with this band? Nothing at all. No. And that band will likely not give a square root of fuck all about this band, but yet the agent's using that power and that relationship to be able to do it. And I'm a bit like, fuck, you know what? This band is going to get a slot above somebody else that probably deserves it more, and maybe done more in that scene. But right, okay, moving on. We're not agent bashing. I will. Right, this is from YouTube, right? So they're not full names on YouTube. So it's Sinuit. Have you lads considered the fact that before you did this, most probably punters wouldn't recognise you at festivals? Now with this, you're going to be stopped and fawned over like the YouTube celebs you are becoming, right? This person might be a fan from 2000 Trees or Arctangent, wouldn't know about Damnation versus. So for a bit of context to this, I started Damnation in 2005. When Damnation 2019 was happening, I could walk through that entire venue, stage to stage, without anyone but a close friend or family knowing anything about me. And that was fine. I was quite happy to have it that way. Then I started Damnation Versus. And by the time I came out the other side of the pandemic, it was exactly that. It was exactly that. The people stop you for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes it's just to say hello, they've enjoyed the podcast, or they recognise you. You're now the guy who organises the festival they come to. So they want to say cheers. Some people have got, they're in a band, so they're now seeing the opportunity to reach the person that's going to book them. Some people just want one of the bands that they like on. So for whatever reasons, there is you get stopped a lot, and it is a bit. It's a bit surreal, to be honest. It's a wee bit surreal. You get one day of being whatever a celebrity would feel like, getting stopped a lot and asked a lot of questions. Now, what I realised is how, when the most surreal day of all is I arrived on the first day at Tangent last year. I get out the car, and by the time that I'd met you, within half an hour of being there, and walked 60 yards from the entrance to like the fourth stage or something, we were stopped 8 to 10 times. And most of those times was to say hello to me. And people, which is the most awkward thing in the world, because you're like, I'm literally with a guy who's running this thing, and people stop and say, oh, guys, Gav, that's Gav for Damnation. So when we started this podcast, I said to you, say farewell to ever being able to walk about that field again.
Yeah.
Where people recognise who you are, and then for their motives to come and say hello.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a hard one to answer without sounding like an asshole, but there are backstage routes at festivals, and there are front of house routes at festivals, aren't there? And it is nice to be. I like being out the front of house, but it's weird. I spend all of my time like desperate to see bands. I've got loads of mates there that I want to catch up with, like old friends, and then there's all the there's a bit of music industry sort of ligging and networking and stuff that goes on, and agents wanting to go through their entire roster at 11 a.m. Hayden on a Saturday morning of Arctangent. It's your time is so, those 4 days are mad. I'm just like trying to cram it all in. So I love it when people say, this is my favorite festival, thanks so much for doing it. Those sort of little conversations make you feel so good. But yeah, the long conversations with a million people are really hard at festivals, because I haven't even got enough time to I don't have enough time to talk to my friends.
And to be fair to most people, that it is usually a hello and goodbye. You know, I mean, most people are just, which is great. I mean, it's that point, if you think about it, like in my household, I've become a bit of the household bum for some reason. I mean, so I went through my youngest daughter won't even remember by the time she grows up any years where I was a newspaper editor and left the house every morning with a three-piece suit on and a tie. I mean, my youngest daughter just thinks I'm a bum, that I'm homeless. And basically, my wife allows me to stay in the house. So it's like when you go to these places, I've got teenage kids as well, and they're a bit like, okay, this is a guy who pretends to get a job because he goes and sits in a wee office every morning in the house in his pajamas. So when you show up at Damnation, they'll be like, oh, look, you know what? Actually, people do. I'm important, though. For one day in an industrial estate in Manchester, I am important, okay? So it's a nice feeling to get some.
Feels great, yeah.
A validation of people to speak to, and also people are just great. I mean, I've said this before on the forum, that I was having, by the time I got to Damnation that day, from the Wednesday I'd been there, I was fucking exhausted. I was absolutely exhausted. And the only thing that really gave me that second wind was enough people coming up and going, love the festival, absolutely brilliant, well done, put it on. At that point, you're like, what the fuck am I crying about? Like, get yourself together, grab a beer and go and enjoy Julie Christmas. So, I'm looking forward to now going to 2000 Trees and Arctangent and seeing you being terrorised by people saying, why don't you book sleep? Why don't you book sleep?
I've tried. We can ask Tom Taff that.
I will ask Tom Taff.
He comes on. Yeah. Shall I give you another question?
Batter me.
So I think two people have asked similar questions here, so I'll give them both a shout out. So Chris Winship, Chris has been coming to 2000 Trees, I think, since the first one. So hi, Chris. How much scouting, seeing bands do you do before booking smaller or less well-known bands, or is it a lot of gut and word of mouth? And also, Barney Jevons asks, hi Barney, how do you wade through a sea of smaller bands and pick the right ones?
Oh, so, do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay. So I mean, I think there is I have a rule of two, which is if I get a band thrown at me from more than one direction, like two different people or two different magazines or whatever, then that's when I'm like, right, I need to sit up and take notice of this band. I think the least efficient way of picking bands for a festival is going to see bands live because it is extremely time consuming. It is the best way to see if that band is suitable for your lineup. Of course, it is. But I can listen. I can stay at home for a night and listen to 100 bands on Spotify and listen and watch 100 YouTube videos, or I can go to one gig and watch three bands. So I do a bit of both of those things, but ultimately, the internet is your friend in this regard, and people's recommendations, and frankly, there's a lot of gut in it. Like I used to think you should get all the bands together and then be like, which one am I going to pick? But actually, it's just like I'm now like go with my gut. That band sounds fucking great. They would fit that stage. They're going to cost 300 quid. I am going to book them,
Yeah.
rather than like thinking, what if something better comes along? Just go with your gut, book the band. So there is a lot of wading, but how do you choose? I just think you just think, yes, that's the right band. I'm going to book
Yeah,
them.
and that's right. Sometimes ones, I mean, I'd mentioned I'd recommended Gillian Carter in a previous pod, and also they're booked for this year. Now, by the turn of this year's like 1st of January, I didn't even know Gillian Carter existed. I literally didn't even know that band were. I thought, and as I said, when it came through, I thought it was like some female singer-songwriter, folk music, you know what I mean? So that's a one of it, just like boom. It's not a case of waiting, it's been presented to, and we do get presented dozens and dozens and dozens of bands, and you can only, I mean, you listen to as much as you can, but you can't get round everything. But then we've got communities that are also piling stuff on. So you get a very unique sort of Gillian Carter one where something just gets presented and you listen like, this is top draw. This is excellent. I don't even care the fact that this is not going to sell any tickets. People are going to see this at Damnation like, thank you, Damnation, for having the balls to put this on when other people would have been like, how many tickets did they sell in London? Nobody fucking knows. They've never been here. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Gillian Carter that route. And then you get the Coffin Milks route, a Glasgow death metal band. We had a slot left. It's unusual for us to do this, but we took it to the forum and put it up, and like, I don't know, 500-600 comments, and it's just a tsunami of Coffin Milk. This young up and coming Glasgow death metal band that are just really making a name for themselves in a scene that's thriving at the moment. And all those ones you're a bit like, what do you think, Paul? Sound fucking excellent. How can you go wrong? And you've got a community demanding them. So okay, let's go with Coffin Milk. In between those two extremes, where one's community driven and one's just your own ear, there is that middle ground of just hearing recommendations, seeing them, possibly. Like I went to Cult Fest. I'd mentioned because you said about me going to smaller events and crowd surfing and high fiving people. And the guy who runs that event, Cult Fest, was like, "Oh, you can you give us a wee name drop? There's your name drop, right? Cult Fest." So went to that. I hadn't seen Pine before, even at your event, if they'd been booked previously. Well, you guys have seen them with Curses Metal Hands, but never as their own thing. Now, that decision was made that night to, right, okay, this is excellent. I already thought we would book them, but then got to see them that night. And there's another band for that lineup that will be announced, who are also excellent. And sometimes it's that you already know, but it's nice the confirmation to go and see them live. Like, shit, they really pulled out the bag there as well. So, and there is, as I say, there's that unique one. It just matters to you, or you care because that is your job to try to find these bands and put them out there too. And then there's your community-led ones. There's the obviously big ones when you're booking Cradle of Filth just because they're Cradle of Filth, or
Yeah.
Converge because they're Converge. And then that middle ground is just making enough noise and getting on people's radars.
You also get those bands that are like, you'd be an idiot if they weren't on your radar. Like when Harriet came through, when Conjurer came through, you know.
Svalbard, Pupil Slicer.
Yeah, exactly. And at 2000 Trees, there's a bunch of good examples of that. You know, bands that are like come in and everyone knows about it. You don't need to be a clever promoter to to know about it. Everyone knows that these bands are coming through, and
which is probably, well, why haven't either of us booked Tim Mold?
yeah, well, I emailed them, they didn't reply. So there you go.
Because you know what, I was just thinking when you're saying that, I haven't even emailed yet. You know what I mean? It's like that is one of those was like shit when he's talking about that, well, these bands that everybody's shouting about, like, why haven't we tried to get Tim Mold either?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I wanted to mold, but yeah, I don't know. Don't know what
they never even get back. Right, okay.
No, I don't think they've got an agent. So that sometimes you need agents, don't you?
Well, especially if you want to get, I mean, it's fair enough if you're going to do the hard work and get yourself booked. But if you're not even going to reply to the emails, then I don't know. Who knows? Who knows with that band? They just came to mind when you mentioned that. Right. So Mr. Mark Whiffen, who I don't know this guy, but he seems like very positive in the whole podcast experience. He seems to be all in from day one. So he's asking how much discussion regarding fees and band requests go on between promoters. Worryingly, he says, I know of a few promoters will openly discuss fees for bands and tour if they're promoting the dates regionally. Does the same happen in the festival market, or does its own uniqueness mean it operates differently?
Well, I mean, yeah, we totally share fees. I mean, the way the agents want it to be is for it to be a closed shop so that everyone's bidding blind, like you're buying a house. And the festivals want it to be the opposite. So me and Gav will often WhatsApp each other to say, how much did you pay this band last year? Or are you in for this band this year? What are you going to pay them? We both we both had a WhatsApp message today from a different festival promoter who we won't mention which festival, asking us about how much for a certain band, didn't
Yes.
we? And so it happens all the time. There are some festivals that won't share anything, that won't share shit. People would be surprised, like who you can talk to and who you can't talk to, because it isn't all the independents. Like I know people who work at Live Nation that I can have very open and honest conversations with, and I know some independent festivals whose name we probably won't mention that wouldn't share anything with me or Gav ever.
So that is all correct. The reason I said worryingly is when he said like so regional promoters just openly discussing fees is because that is not what we do. And if we did that, we would literally do it here, wouldn't we? We would just say band X take $6,000 out. But it'd be, God, you could get how much clickbait could you get if you just started throwing out bands' fees? That's not what we're about. We completely understand why bands need some professional privacy about what they go out for, and they want to go to different territories, and agents want to be able to bid higher. However, you're completely right. Agents do not want fees being discussed anywhere. But and I always find that. I mean, listen, am I going to go directly to a band's drummer or singer and try to book them when the agent book them? No, I'm not. Even if I'm friendly with that band, and we're friendly with a lot of bands now, I'm still going to do the proper route for my own sake, for the band's sake, and for the sake of doing it right. I'm still going to go through the agent. But try to tell a grown-ass adult what they can and can't talk to with fellow professionals is like, mate, geese peace. Literally, geese peace. There's no chance you're telling me that I'm not allowed to. Like, you will not speak to James Scarlett about Band X's fee. Like, shut up. We will. Of course, we'll speak. And everyone does. And everyone's got an idea. And that doesn't mean that because that festival got it for that fee, that you're going to get it for that fee. There's a million different things to go at. Some bands are just supercharged at an event like Damnation. Some bands are supercharged at an event like Art Tangent. And they're just worth more. And it's your choice to make that decision as a promoter. Are they worth more to you? Are they going to sell more tickets? But yes, we openly discuss fees. Almost everyone I know in that setting discusses the fees that are involved. And ultimately, you make your decision based on that.
And as we spoke about on a different podcast, because there's no price list, you are literally like flailing around in the dark. So if someone says to you, I paid 12 grand for that band last year, if Gav says to me, I paid 12 grand last year, I'm going to offer 9 grand this year in the knowledge that the agent's going to try and get me to 12. And the agent doesn't realize that, I mean, this isn't going to work as well in the future, but the agent doesn't know I know Gav. So it's, I'm okay if it pushes me up to 12, but maybe if I was guessing the fee, I might have guessed 15. Who knows? So
Yeah, and no, I have to say, because I always felt that you paid more than me. I didn't feel it. I knew you paid more than me. And then there's been a couple of bands where I went into the deal going, "All right, you paid that much for them," and I found myself paying more. I'm like, how the fuck? How did that happen? In the space of 12 months, that band just again, if you really need them, you mentioned that yourself with the headliners. If it's something you need to fill that, if it's a doom band you need, or a
yeah,
death metal band, or a black metal band, or a post rock band, and they're just like it suits that slot. Sometimes you just have to pay the premium, or it's an exclusive, or they're not really that interested in playing your event. You just have to bite the bullet and pay what is needed. So, aye, that's what I'm saying. He does have a wee quick point B. Have you both got into bidding wars with each other? The answer's no, and we wouldn't get into a bidding war, but we will. Like, there's no doubt with our overlap. There is going to be bands where it goes to Art Tangent, it goes to Damnation, doesn't do vice versa. And ultimately, we could be sitting there, I'd have preferred that we played at my festival. It's surprising it's not happened more often than it has.
no, and I think the beauty is because you're a winter festival, we're a summer festival. What that usually means is the band is making a decision based on not choosing between the two festivals. It will be like the band wants to come to Europe and tour, is more likely to be a Damnation thing, or the band wants to come to Europe and do a summer festival run where they do like Arctangent, Brutal Assault, and Summer Breeze, and a bunch of others in Europe. That would make sense. So it doesn't feel like you're competing. Whereas if it was like me against Bloodstock, it's like 2 weeks apart, and it's one or the other.
Yeah.
So we don't get in that situation, do we? I'm sure we'd both love to book. Mastodon is probably a good example of a band.
I suppose Sleep. I just threw Sleep out randomly earlier,
Yeah.
but I mean, if Sleep are going to do it, if they come back, they're going to do one, aren't they? They're going to do one, and I'll be Damnation and Art Tangent that are going after them because
yeah. I mean, Tom, if you're listening, I think I'm probably up for paying a bit more than Gav. So.
Tom, if you're listening, he's definitely up for paying more than me. don't even knock on our door if James is involved, because those are deep pockets, and ultimately you get a nice shared pocket, a lovely shared pocket where you go, you know what, if all it goes tits up, we can all share the damage. When I'm like, that's all me, that is fucking all me.
Yeah, it's true.
What you got for us?
Okay, well, I'm going to go back to James Clay because I think this is a really good question. If you weren't booking your own festival, which other festivals lineup would you love to go and curate? If you want some time to think, I can go first.
Go, batter on.
So I would really love to have a go at Damnation. I think that would be fun, genuinely. I was going to say Roadburn, but actually I'm not going to say Roadburn because I think that's its own thing, which I can't do better. But if I was really gonna,
great, thanks.
I was suggesting I could do yours better. If I was really gonna have a go at something, Hellfest or Hellfest. Imagine booking Hellfest.
Fuck.
Because you've got like a budget of like on each stage.
$1 billion.
I mean, you've been to Hellfest, haven't you? And
forever. It's Disneyland for goths. I mean, it's like, just what do you want? What do you want? It's like, that's the surprise. Why haven't they booked Dillinger? Because to them, what difference does it make? Because if you're going to spend that money on a band, it might as well be Dillinger. Because it's already sold out. So you're just it's pure fantasy booking stuff. Just do whatever you want.
Although in some ways now I'm changing my mind because I'm thinking I can't do better than they do either. That's just brilliant.
Do not come back to Damnation.
No, Download. I think Download would be interesting because I'd like to have a go at Download's headliners and do something mad with it. And like, you know, I'm going to put, I tell you what, here you go. Ghost are going to headline the main stage at Download, and Creeper are going to play right up high on the main stage. And there's a band called Grave Pleasures who you've had at Damnation, right?
Yeah.
Fucking Grave Pleasures. I've got this fancy about Ghost, Creeper, and Grave Pleasures being the greatest 3 bands pairing imaginable. That's my Download Thursday lineup.
And for people who like Download, that was the last time that festival ever happened.
They've got to like Ghost, mate. They've got to like
Grave Pleasures headlined the 4th stage of Damnation, and you're trying to put them.
So good. They should be massive. Right, everyone. In fact, I'm changing my recommendation at the end of this podcast. I've changed my mind. We're going grave pleasures.
I hope Cam Hack's listening to this and knowing that his position is never under any threat when you try to put grave pleasures in a special guest slot in the main stage.
Do something different, Cam. Grave pleasures. Come on.
Grave pleasures is the answer. Like, I mean, great band. Just think about, well, there's millions of great bands. I mean, I don't think fucking Frail Body should be up in the main stage of Download either. I was thinking too small. I thought Dunk. I mean, I would like post metal and post rock are my two gems. I mean, that is what I go to. I mean, I love Damnation. I love a lot of extreme music, but post metal and post rock are my two gems. And like to get the freedom to book 3 days of a festival where that is all you do. You're not doing electronic. You're not doing death metal. You're not doing black. You're just all in on your post rock. But then you mentioned Hellfest. I'm like, it's not a case about doing it better. Like, can you just imagine how much fun you would have? Because then all my dream hit, like the Tool, the Deftones, the Nine Inch Nails, the Dillinger Escape Plan reunion, all of it's available. Everything, there's nothing off the table. Once you book Metallica, there is nothing off the table. And I would, I'd like to. I mean, 6 stages over 4 days. I mean, that's incredible. But to keep it realistic, something that I feel like I do have the ear for. I mean, Dunk Festival in Belgium was pretty special, and it's different. I mean, Damnation. I know exactly what Damnation is. I know that it's a big tin can. It's not trying to be a curated experience. It's not trying to sell you something. It's not. It's just really good fucking bands all day with great production and great sound there for you. Whereas Dunk it's I don't know, the venue's like 500 years old. It's got a mystique about it. It's got everything. Then in the main hall that I've watched We Lost the Sea and Mono and Amun Raz. It's fantastic. And to go to something like that, well, I think the capacity is 1,200 maybe, and just go and absolutely slap on every great post-rock, post-metal band I could get. That would be great. I wouldn't mind that at all.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Or you could do a Dunk version in. There you go. Set up a post-rock festival.
You know what? I always fancied a one day up in Glasgow. I mean, I think I'd love to do is like a Barrowlands, something legendary like the Barrowlands. But I mean, you need to throw the kitchen sink at it in terms of. I mean, Cult of Luna, Amun Ra, Mono. Yeah. I mean, and then you start going, right, okay, well, you can do those bands, Gav. That's not unrealistic. But now, how do you make that ticket price work? And then now, can you get 2,000 people to Glasgow to make it work also? So. Aye, it's not something that it's definitely something I've thought about, but it's like, how do you make it financially viable also and make all those bands available to you? So, aye, that would be, my answer would be Dunk, and you are going to come and make Damnation better, are you? Big man.
No, I'll go for Download. I'm going for
you know what I mean?
Download, mate. Yeah.
So, this is coming from a guy, Callum McMillan, who I brought on board as a videographer at Damnation. So when you're seeing any of that cracked video footage, it's out, that's his work. And then afterwards, I was like, right, you know what? No, we're terrible at Damnation? Marketing. Because we don't really have a marketing plan. We don't have any PR firm. So I asked him to come on board and help us out with that. So when you see those sponsored ads that are kicking about, where I'll line up over the top of some video footage, this is this guy who's asking the question. And he's saying, what are the biggest challenges to marketing a festival in 2020s? The impact of printed press is obviously less. Most of the bands you put on don't do much radio play, and social media is saturated. So, James, what are the biggest marketing challenges for yourself, or are you guys so big you can just pay a company to do that for you?
Well, he's answered his own question in a way, hasn't he? Because it's basically because all those things he just said are true. Like print has changed significantly. The old rock magazines are now all websites, and apart from Metal Hammer, and it's unclear sometimes who's reading them. So I think it has changed, and it's become about advertising on socials. And yeah, we pay someone who's very good at that. Mitch is brilliant at that job, and yeah, I actually think in the old days when I started in 2006, and no doubt when you started, Gav, you'd be pounding the street handing out flyers to people, and really, there's not a massive amount of difference between that and social media. It's just these are like digital flyers, right? And there are various ways of you finding those people. Whereas in Cheltenham Town Centre, I was handing out 2,000 Trees flyers to like a granny coming out of like, Oxfam shop, and that's not very good targeting.
No.
Whereas now you can actually target someone with the interests and the age range, and so it's challenging. There's a lot of things like competing for people's money online. Everyone's trying to get your money out of your pocket. It's not just festivals, it's not just gigs, it's everything. So you're in a space where you're competing with all those people. But I think I'd rather do that than the old school
Yeah. I mean,
efforts. Sometimes I wonder how anyone did anything before the internet.
the worst I mean, honestly, back in 2007, I put on a gig in Glasgow, and it was like Four-Way Kill, the Inbreds, and Man Must Die. So pretty small bands in a pretty small venue. And I went to outside 3 or 4 gigs. I think Deftones played one night, and another night it was, I don't know, say let's get Limp Bizkit, and just sitting there with other people handing out. And I think by the end it done like 65 ticket sales. And I think I knew all 65 people there. So it was like I had nothing to do. Every flyer we handed out, not one sale of
Yeah.
2 or 3 nights of going out and spending £100 in flyers. Then if you don't even value your own time, then going out and doing it and getting absolutely nowhere with it. So I'm glad those days are over, and you can just say, right, all right, Mark Zuckerberg, here's a grand. Going to find me some people who like Four-Way Kill and Inbreds. So there's that. Damnation's an odd fish in terms of marketing, because we're an outlier in every sense. We don't have a structure around about us. There's no PR firm, there's no marketing firm. We're not part of any of the scene. We're not part of the award ceremonies. We're not part of an independent festival. And there's a lot that we just don't. Not deliberately, we just never done it. I was a journalist for so long, and I've had the time or effort to do it. And now it's more like, right, okay, there is definitely a worthiness, but then there's a wee bit of my own background. Like, I am not going to pay a PR firm to write a press release worse than I could do it. And I'm yet to see any press release come out for anywhere that was better than I could do. And I don't even mean to say that to be a dick. It's just that's what my background, what I came from. But what I'm terrible at is social media. I mean, I still haven't worked out Instagram properly. I mean, how to share a story. So that's the reason I went to Callum, is just to say, look, we need help to get what we have out further. And he's definitely doing a good job of that. But what can we do more over and above that doesn't involve just more money, throwing more cash at it? I'm not entirely sure. This, I suppose, this was built on. I mean, you and I aren't looking to be famous. It's like we just want our festivals to have a bigger reach. And if we can get a bigger reach to people on YouTube and Spotify, then great, let's do that. And that's the conversation we had at the very start. What do we want from this? We want more ticket sales for 2000 Trees, Art Tangent, and Damnation. So I suppose this, and that way answers his question too.
Yeah, agreed. And for me, I think festival marketing is pretty simple, right? There are only really 2 things that you can market. One is the bands, and to a certain extent, if you book them, they will come, is true. So it is true. If you book the right lineup, people will come. So that's your number one thing. And then the other thing is, well, we always call it smiley, happy people drinking beer in a field, but it's just like the experience.
Yeah.
What experience can you provide that is better? And that's one thing I'm pretty confident on with our festivals, is that it's better experience than most festivals you can go to.
Yeah.
Not outside of the bands, the rest of it is just better. The people are nicer, and the beer tastes better, and whatever else. So those are your 2 things. And if you haven't been before, it's pretty hard to market the experience, because it just sounds like bollocks. So really, you're just going, here's my bands, here's my bands, here's my bands. This is my lineup. Have you seen my lineup? Have you seen my lineup? Have you seen my lineup?
Yes.
Over and over again in various different ways. So this month, we'll put out our Clash Finder, we'll put out our stage times. I did this genre splits thing for ATG, where I basically went through the whole lineup and put every band in different genres. Partly that's because I'm a bit of a music geek and I enjoyed doing it, and partly it's because it's another way of people like being like, oh fuck, I haven't checked that out, I'm going to check that out. And really just people buying into the festival. Because actually, if you're Damnation or 2000 Trees or Arc Tangent, if you buy the festival, if you buy into it as in the concept of it and the brand and the like, people fucking love them, don't they? When they really love them, they really love them.
And they get involved. There's not easy. there's no reason why our forums or groups should have that level of engagement for the size
Yeah,
that we are. It's
yeah, yeah.
like we should be ants on the scale of your downloads in Glassbees. But I guarantee when you go into their forums and their groups, well, they're busy. I'm not saying they're not busy, but the level of engagement we've got relative to size is unreal because you're right. Once people do come, they do invest in it, they can get right into it. And
Mm,
it's funny you said the market as well, because I was talking to a band about just because I'm trying to find more things to do in my time other than just running Damnation. And I was like, you know what, bands are awful. Awful, Mark. Like, especially when it put out social media. Again, I'm not a videographer. I'm not a guy that's going to knock you up a TikTok, whatever. But I do have an idea of how to even present Damnation differently every time it's coming up. I mean, be it a video or changing the poster or the way it's, and you see these bands and they're absolutely dreadful at it, and you're like, you just pushing out the exact same poster and just hoping that more people click suddenly go, oh, that's it, I'll go and buy a ticket now, isn't going to work. But it's a slow burner with bands because I think with bands, I still hope that, oh, if we pay some PR and we can get a column inch and Kerrang or Metal Hammer, that's going to do the trick. And you're like, maybe 20 years ago, but not now.
right.
You're not gonna see that change. And I've yet to, sometimes we put out, and this is bad to admit, but sometimes we put band announcements and there is no press involvement at all. And ultimately, truth be told, there's no tangible difference at the other side. There's no like, oh my god, that one was picked up by several outlets and posted it to all their fans, and we've done 100 tickets, and the next time we've done that with nothing, and we got 10 tickets. Again, it's really just into the bands, and if people are already invested in it, that's a sad truth, but it's the truth.
I mean, you get some. One thing that really pisses me off, I don't think I've ever told you this, is that my favorite podcast is That's Not Metal. Um, really good, like rock and metal
Your second
reviews.
favorite now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they always do. They do so much about Damnation in the lineup. Whenever you announce a lineup, there's like a whole fucking news section. And when it's an Arctangent lineup, they just go, "Oh yeah, an Arctangent will just announced Mogwai," and then they move on. And when it's 2,000 Trees, they stop to take the piss out of like Yumi at 6 or something for a bit, and then they move on. So yeah, so I don't know what you're doing with That's Not Metal, but it's working.
Aye,
Um,
I've never. I know it because we're booking the back because they are. I don't know if they were late to the game. I'm going to say I was like an avid listener back in the day. I've heard a lot more of the podcast now, but there's definitely the. Aye, there's definitely the came team handed, and again, I suppose
yeah.
the point you're making. So Perrin and the other two, is it Sam and is it Joe? Who's the third guy? I forget.
Well, there's about 4 or 5 of them. Elliot's one of them. I don't know.
Aye,
Yeah,
and
I've never met them.
they came team handed, and it's one of those ones. I listened to the review show, and it was one of the guys clearly wasn't his scene, but once they were all there, like what a day we had, and
Yeah.
stumbling upon band and these sets, and they done a bit of a deep dive in the dead guy stuff. They done a bit of deep dive on the leprous set, and it was great. And I really appreciate that. I met Peter a couple of times at Bloodstock, and I met him at Outbreak as well. He's a good guy, clearly knows his stuff. So I appreciate that support, mate. And I'm sorry your favourite podcast isn't fawning over you, James.
That's okay. I can live with it. It's fine. It's fine. But yeah, no, but it's a good example of like how that is a form of press, isn't it? And it's a form of getting your name out there. And when I think the last thing I'd say is that when you said the reason we started this is it's another marketing arm of the festivals. I think and really the nub of that is what I just said a minute ago, which is that it means that the audience, if they want to, can engage on a way deeper level with what we're doing at the festivals and really see how much, like, hopefully it's obvious how much love and blood, sweat, and tears and everything that we put into. That sounds a bit cheesy, but how much we put into our festivals and how much we give a shit about them, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and it's weird because so if you're a Damnation fan and you've came through that, and then your experience of me for the first time was at 2020 getting into 2021 because Damnation Versus started, you're like, fucking hell, man, this guy's he's got a weird accent, but he's close to the bone, and he kind of tells it as it is, and that's kind of the way the voice of when I talk about the marketing. I mean, I write everything that goes out on those posts, so that is Damnation's voice, and that is my voice, but this podcast is exposed not only Damnation, but maybe Arctangent and 2000 Trees to you, and then your voice. So what you've got is now what I'm seeing. I'm seeing what I saw 3, 4 years ago. Oh my God, these guys are talking about this and booking and billing, and they're pulling back the curtain, and it's so transparent, and you're totally right. So then people are getting invested going, this is amazing to listen to. Whereas that's the experience I had from 3 years ago. It was like, fucking hell, you're talking to that agent about how you book bands and so on. So once you've got that and you feel like people are listening and they give a shit about what you've got to say, it's much easier to get invested than it is in an event where you feel like it wouldn't really matter if you attended or didn't. The event
Yeah,
would just go on without you.
yeah,
Did,
absolutely.
did we take this? Did we manage to make this Q&A a long one as well? Even when we said we did, like,
Fuck
we'll
no.
time this one, James. We'll time this one then. Fucking no one timed anything.
I thought you were in charge of that, to be honest.
You can't blame everything on me. You can't like
You're...
right. Lose Bruise. I'll take it for you, James. Right, you just sit back and enjoy yourself.
Thanks,
Lose
mate.
Bruise, the main man, the sponsor. He said that he was delighted with life, delighted with the podcast, delighted how it's got all gone, and he would like to give away a box set now of his hot sauces. So there's a guy called Bailey on Facebook. He's been with this podcast pretty much from the start. Sorry, I don't know your second name, Bailey. I think it's just your YouTube handle. You know who it is. He's a guy who organises an event up in Edinburgh. He's one of these guys who, from day one with us, was on board with us and was shouting from the rooftops. I never get any specifics of who I was to give it to. I didn't know if it was going to be a random draw. So if I'm just getting to choose, I'm going to choose this guy. He's one of those guys when the good things happen in the music industry, he seems to be around it. He's one of these guys that he's nothing but positive. And if a box of hot sauces will cheer the boy up, then magic. You are the winner of Lou's Brews first giveaway. So get in touch. In fact, get in touch via me. I'll put you in touch with Lou, and then we'll take it from there. Anyone who doesn't have a clue what we're talking about, because they've just tuned into this episode first, Lou's Brews is a hot sauce company who kindly sponsored this podcast from the start. Chaotically, in the same way we do everything with this podcast, there was no real rules or regulation. Like, there was nothing. He never gave us anything to say about it. He just goes, "Aye, that sounds great. I'll give you some money." So we're kind of winging it every time we mention him, which is part of the appeal. And his website's loosebrews.co.uk. Pod 15, which originally was just 15% off your first order, he's now changed that to 15% off all orders, unless you're James Scarlett, in which case you get refunded. And
Yep.
go check him out. Go check him out.
Yeah, we've been speaking to Lou this week, and he is in production now on a 2000 Trees and an Arctangent, two separate hot sauces. There's going to be like some sort of competition on our Facebook page to come up with a fun name, a pun or something. Don't know. Have a think and go and tell us something. Come up with a good name, and you can win something. I don't know what. But yeah,
nice and organised again, James.
Yeah, fucking hell, that was bad. Are we going to cut that bit out?
No, look at any of that.
Right. Amazing, love it. This is live. Nothing is cut. Okay,
Nothing
should we
is
talk about
cut.
some music at the end?
We'll talk about music. Let's see you're good at, James. Let's talk. Let's get on the record section done. What have you got for us this week?
So I'm gonna go slightly left field and recommend you a band that doesn't have any songs out yet. They are called Vower. They are playing at Arctangent and 2000 Trees, and if you want to be the cool kid telling all your mates about this band that no one else has heard, this is the band, right? So they are the members of the band are Joe and Liam from Black Peaks. So it's guitar and drums from Black Peaks. Lead singer from Palm Reader, and the other guitarist is a guy called Rabia, who's he was in Tosca, and he's also kind of a YouTube personality. Basically, it's like a British underground suit. I got really excited and hit my mic then. Sorry. It's like an underground sort of British supergroup of fucking progressive heavy musicians. And I have heard their first few songs and they're fucking great. So I booked them for both festivals. I think this band, I mean, let's face it, Black Peaks were one of the best British bands ever, and I was so gutted they never made it. Palm Reader have just announced they're breaking up. What a wonderful band. Saw them the other day, supporting Thrice. And it's just like such a great, nice group of people that are all hugely talented. And I think this band's going to be fucking amazing, basically. So, yeah.
Okay. So
Vower, Vower.
When you listen to this and you're like, fucking hell, James. That sounds fantastic, James. I'm really excited, James. And then you go to Spotify and there's fuck all there. I want you to go. I want you to go into the comments and say, James, thanks for letting us know. That's a sort
But
of.
you
I've got access to this music, but you don't. Enjoy.
no, but it's like in July and in August, you can then come back and go, he was right. I've seen him live, or there'll be music out before then. It's coming. I'm trying to make you the cool kids, so you know it's coming.
Right. Okay.
You're not buying that at all, are you,
I'll
Gav?
be less pretentious. Okay. I'll give you music you can listen to. Although I also offer up the best post rock that's kicking around. We Lost the Sea. Now, I don't really want to just mention a track, but I suppose I get away with this now because you couldn't mention a track because the band you recommended don't have any music. So just go and listen to Departure songs. In my opinion, I said previously I thought that Mariner by Cult Luna and Julie Christmas was the best post metal album ever written. I believe that Departure songs is the best post rock album ever written by this Australian band. We Lost the Sea for people that use subtitles to see what I'm saying. And aye, they were a post metal band. Tragically, the singer took his own life. They went away for a couple of years and reinvented themselves as a post rock band. And in 2015, I believe they released Departure Songs, which is a collection of 5 songs that are about people trying to achieve greatness, or heroic acts that lost life in doing that, be it the astronauts on the Challenger in America or the people in Ukraine when there was the Bugatti, Chernobyl, right, the Chernobyl situation. It's amazing. It's fantastic when you listen to it. There's a track called "The Last Dive" for David Shaw, who was a guy who died, came down trying to rescue or retrieve the body of another diver who died, and it's got that sort of emotional weight to it. I mean, post rock's a difficult one because there's no lyrics, but for some reason with this album you can feel, and everybody interprets the music to where they think that journey for that person is, but it's unbelievable. I recommend you go and check that one out too, and you'll have plenty of time considering there's got nothing to listen to in James's recommendation.
Right. Fuck you, Gav. Okay, everyone go and listen to Grave Pleasures because they are
Oh,
amazing, and their
can you
album from
jump in
last
with a
year was
second
amazing. Yeah,
recommendation?
I'm very.
Although I want to ask you quickly, like, I mean, everybody, your fan base must be saying as well. It's like We Lost the Sea, such a. I mean, I get it. They're Australian. Everything has to be perfectly scheduled to ever land at Arctangent, but those are ones that must be on your radar for some point.
Yeah, I was just about to say it's a really unusual one that they've never played. They will definitely play at Arctangent one year. It is just you don't come out of Australia for one gig, really. You gotta. Everything's got to line up,
Aye,
and because it costs so much, I think bands want to line it up with a release, don't they? So I think
yeah,
you'll find whenever their next album comes, you'll
yeah.
probably see them
They
at
would be
Arctangent.
they would be perfect,
Yeah,
perfect art tangent. But again, you're saying you share a weekend like a brutal assault and summer breeze. Probably not that interested in booking We Lost the Sea, so
no,
it's maybe a tough shout for those guys to come out and manage that. But yes, that was I enjoyed that Q&A. That was
yeah, it's good.
let's I don't know how we're releasing these. Are these going to be the Thursday episode? Are we doing these bonus? Who the hell knows what's going on with this fucking podcast? So
Who knows?
we'll decide on that one. And thank you for everyone who submitted the questions to allow it to happen.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That was really fun. I enjoyed that.